Hey friends, how's it going today? Yeah? So full disclosure, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Haley Janacek. I am on the ConvertKit team, and I've been waiting 5 years to get on this stage, and Nathan finally said this year was the year. And it's not because I'm cool, it's because they're cool. Thank you. So I want to tell you a little bit about the first time that I got the opportunity to experience the Santucci Brothers and Mungo. We have a local event for everybody that is local. Who has been to Treefort? Okay, if you have not, Treefort is a fantastic music festival that really showcases our city. And I believe there's going to be a partnership with them with our next Craft and Commerce as far as like their new location that they're launching. So that's something that's really exciting. But this last year for Treefort, we were able to partner with Paste Magazine, and I got to co-host alongside their host. His name was Brad. He's a wonderful guy. And second act, these guys come on with like a crew of like 75 people. There were a lot of inputs on the stage. I had no idea what I was doing. Thank God there was an engineer there that was, capable of setting up that many inputs. And I honestly had absolutely no idea what to expect. And you knew right away when they came in that their energy was going to be completely, it was already infectious, and they hadn't even spoken a word to me. It was really the energy that they were bringing collectively, amongst each other, and it was really this beautiful vibe that you could just feed off of. And they immediately, their first song, I think it was your first song, right? Was Sekalela, which was the second song, I think, after Elevator Music that they opened up with last night. And that song is, and now I'm gonna not, what is the appropriate, I can't say it, I'm sorry.
Chichewa.
See, that's why. I tried and I did not do it well. Mungo is from Malawi, and the reason why this song was so unbelievably it made you feel something, and I couldn't understand a word that was being said. And I still was able to, it transcended language because I could just feel it. And my whole body, and Brad sitting next to me, and we just had chills over our whole bodies. And in that moment, I knew that these guys were going to be something, and I really am proud to have them on the stage. If you saw them perform that song and the rest of their set, you know that they offer something that's very different. It's very culturally diverse, and I'm excited to have them here with us. So let's just briefly get started, just like a quick who you are, what's your role in the band, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Haley. I appreciate it. I'm Dominic. I'm the bass player, and also co-direct with my brother Marco.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was really, really lovely. I'm Marco. I play keys and synth, and Dom and I pretty much mobbing on the operation of everything.
And I'm Mungo. I'm the lead singer of the operation. And should I also thank Haley? Because it's a line down. Yeah.
Thanks, Haley. I'm Rocco, everyone. I fiddle around with the music and behind the scenes.
Rocco's an incredible songwriter and not humble about it at all.
And a rapper, exactly.
Just a side note, I was like, hey, backstage, I was like, you're gonna freestyle a little bit, right? That is happening. We need the energy from that. He said that he would try, but we're going to make him do it.
Only if you collectively beatbox for him.
Yeah. So we've only got 21 minutes and 4 seconds. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this conversation going. And I'm gonna obviously ask each of these individual questions to one of you because we don't have that much time. But Dom, I'd love to have you kick us off and kind of describe the Santucci Brothers and Mungo to somebody who has never heard you before, because what you do is very different.
Well, I would say that we're a community and a family first, and that's what we just want to cultivate, family and love and art in general. Our sound is very neo-soul. We have a lot of hip-hop, blues, rock influences as well. But like Haley mentioned, it's just a vibe. We want to share with you what we're feeling when we're making the music. We want to give to you as you get back to us, for being a part of the experience. So yeah, it's a very beautiful community to be a part of, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. All right, Dom, this actually question is for you again, so you keep on holding that mic there. But last night we went to a speaker dinner, and while we were at dinner, I learned a little bit more about your origin and how you're kind of the leader. So Dom is the oldest, right? No, okay, oldest, middle is Marco, and then we got Rocco is the baby over there. And he told me this story, and I was just like really moved by it, because it was this moment like this, transition from one thing to the next. And I'd love for you to tell me about a little bit more about that story when you found yourself in the St. Luke's parking lot. And I want to say that you said a nurse anesthetist.
Anesthesia tech. Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me that story about the moment that you were like, this is not what I am meant to do.
I mean, I've been working there for a little over 2 years, and kind of just burnt out. The people around me were burnt out. The way that the system worked there just left you feeling depleted all the time. And something that charged me a lot was playing music with my brothers and my family and myself as well. And so yeah, I was just sitting there, and I decided, like, this is not what I want to do with my life. I want to chase my passion, and I want to take that risk on myself and on my family. And I quit that same day. I just walked out, and and then my sister actually had moved to Minnesota like recently, because she was going through some health issues, and Rocco and I just decided to go with her, and we were just there to support her. And we were in Rochester in negative 15-degree Fahrenheit weather in a basement, and I was teaching Rocco how to play guitar, and we took it from there.
I love that. And one of the things that you had said last night that really struck me too was that while you were working at the hospital, you would often use music as like a tool to connect with people. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things that music does and that art can do. How did that feel? How did you do that?
Yeah, so there was a piano on the 3rd floor, and it was right outside of the chemo treatment room. And on my break, I would just go and play piano for everybody that was getting treatment. And I would just write music and play songs that I had learned, and just sharing that reciprocal exchange of energy with myself and also the patients. Like, I never met a lot of them, but sometimes people would come out and just like thank me, for just like sharing that moment with them and helping them to find a moment of peace or consciousness in their pain. And that was really, really powerful for me. And that was also something that motivated me to do this for real. Yeah.
And that was also like the start of them being like, hey guys, we're gonna, all leave our jobs. Or I think Rocco, actually, you said yesterday that you were playing music in the woods at this time before you went. You were all describing you were doing different things, and I thought that was really entertaining. And then you were like, no, we're gonna go chase our dream. But Marco, you at the time, you had went to University of Idaho. You were trying to be in a frat, is the story that I've heard.
Yeah,
apparently we won't talk about it, but he was trying to be a traditional fraternity brother, and it wasn't working out for him. And so he came back to Boise, his hometown, and was doing your craft cocktails. Was that right?
Waitering? Yeah, working at the Reef.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
And
At
so
the
there's
door.
this moment where you realize. There's this moment that you realize, like, nah, traditional education, like, this is not for me. And in a world where people are often, like, oh, I have to fit into a 9-to-5 job to be successful, or I have to go to university, or I'm only successful if I have this degree and this next degree. What was that moment for you that you were like, no, that's not my path?
Yeah, I mean, I just was not living up to my potential at all. I knew that I was meant for far more than that. And when Dom and Rocco decided they were going to go to university in Berlin, they were like, you should apply. So I applied. I was like, if I get in, yeah, I'll go. And I got accepted. I don't think they were going to reject me, being the 3rd brother to apply. But then, yeah, at that point, did not think I would ever have a career in music, and this was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
I love that. And so the final kind of question on this topic that I want to go into, and I'm going to ask this specifically to Mungo, because you told me your story yesterday about how you ended up in Idaho, and given all your experience over, like, from that journey to this journey, why do you think it's so important for people to chase their dreams?
I think for starters, it's inspirational. Like, most of the dream chasing that I have done has come from mentors or people around me that did the same thing in their own way. And just that spark that you get when you're able to do that for somebody else, and that spark that you get when somebody else is doing it for you, just being able to impart that, to chase mine and to be able to share that with people and say, okay, this is, and also that feeling you get after you've done it. You're like inspired, you're like, okay, that person's doing it, I'm gonna go out there and do it. And then you get on that path, and then you end up inspiring other people to do things as well. And just hearing that back and just sharing that energy in a space as well as you're doing that is really, it's inspirational. I think that's the word I'll keep going back to, just inspirational for you and for the people that you're doing it for.
It's a very rewarding feeling.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of a two-part question. We're going to transition a little bit. Now, as you can see, this is like, or if you saw their performance yesterday, they're a very diverse group, right? They've got dancers, they've got, it's diverse in culture. And I'm curious about that moment when you realized like this collaboration, how it became a thing and how the collective ultimately became a thing as well. But I want to hear a little bit more about your origin story, and then I also want to hear about for Tree Fort. And so I know that this story kind of starts with Mungo, if I'm recalling this correctly, is that you got the call and then reached out to these guys and asked if they wanted to be a part of it. But let's start with just how you met, and I thought it had something to do with Tinder? Was it that?
Perhaps,
am I on? Yeah. Okay.
We don't talk about that either.
Yeah.
But me and Rocco matched on Tinder in like 2019, somewhere there. A year and a half ago. And then we just got to the studio. We got to work, and we worked on a few things. But I was in school at the moment at the College of Idaho, so it was hard to like constantly get a workflow going. And then the next summer, I would come over for these sleepovers, and that's really what got the momentum going.
Yeah, I had to trap him, honestly. It was like, I'd only see him like maybe once a month. And I was basically like, Dom was going out of town to do something, and I was like, Mungo, you're staying here for 2 weeks. And it was through that 2 weeks that like we really bonded in such a beautiful way and became not only best friends, but like incredibly in sync collaborators, I guess you could say. So. Was
there a specific moment when you realized, well, shit, what we got is special? Like, what was that moment? Like, there's that like light bulb moment. When did that happen for you guys?
We were just like dancing over and over to a Beyonce dance thing. Just hours of it, honestly, we couldn't stop. And then we like took a walk down to the store, we were in the sun, and we were just basking in the glory of our own creativity, I guess. So
that's
fun.
like how Nathan, our CEO, feels like when he sings to Taylor Swift. He's like, they're so in sync, that he just knows that they're meant to be best friends. But let's talk a little bit about your kind of first break, right? So Tree Fort, as I had described before, is this really amazing festival here in Boise. And you were a fill-in, right? Somebody dropped out, and then Mungo, you got the call. They wanted to feature more diverse musicians, and you got the call.
Yes. They had this thing at the Oahe Ballroom, the first one, right? They had this thing at the Oahe Ballroom, and Vota Mariposa, which is like a voting sponsorship program situation. I reached out to them because a friend of mine sent it to me, and he was like, oh, they're looking, they're trying to fill up this spot. And so a friend of mine sent it to me, and I sent my stuff, and they were like, okay, let's do it. So then I, obviously afterward, made this magic in the studio with these guys. I was like, okay, there's something here, like we're, like let's do this together. So then I reached out to everyone, and I was like, do you guys want to do this? So then we did, and it was there, and just practicing and leading, all the moments leading up to that was magical, so we kept going.
And it was also just Dom and Mungo and Binko and Z. Just two vocalists, Dom and Mungo. I had just gotten done with COVID and was sound engineering, but like they blew the roof off that place, that's for sure.
Yeah, we showed up, and it was just a small banquet room. There was like 3 people and maybe like 20 chairs, and like we came dressed to the nines. Like Mungo, like he designed his own outfit. He had gold, like he was just like wearing just like this little thing around his neck, and everything else was just like abs, and then long hair. And the girls came dressed like so fire. They even had outfit changes in the middle because we had Mungo leading and then Pinko leading. And we just popped that room off. Like we came, we brought our energy. We just brought everything and then we only had like 5 days to get ready for it too. So we did a lot of covers and also some originals. But I mean, by the end of the show, they had opened up the back doors, like, so that all the artists, check-in employees could be a part of the concert. People were like coming up from the stairs, like the energy was just electric, and people could really feel it. And then one of the promoters for the festival was there, and that's how we got our shot to actually perform at the Reef this past one in March, which was our big break for us. Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, the series that we produce at ConvertKit over the pandemic was Creator Sessions. I think I might have already said that already, but you know, there you go again. And we did a session with an artist named Judah Akers, who's the lead singer for Judah and the Lion. And one of the things Dom and I were talking about this last night is that he said that if you can't perform, and he was telling this great story, it's a great episode if you want to go watch it, a little plug there. And he is talking about how he was doing a house show while he was in college, and during this house show, he was performing for just a married couple and their like baby, and this full band. And midway through their set, they were like, so we kind of need you to wrap it up because we need to put our baby down. And they were like, okay. So in that moment, what he said, the lesson that he took out of it was that if you can't show up and perform for 3 people, then you don't deserve to show up and perform for the 10,000, for the 1 million, people at Bonnaroo or wherever it is that they were performing. And the thing that I think I really value in what you do is that you bring so much energy, and you look within. Like you saw it if you guys watched them perform yesterday when Rocco, you were specifically saying that, if you needed energy, you would just look at Mungo and you could feel his energy when you need that. And so that first tree fort situation, you didn't have a giant audience there, but you showed up for those 3 people in the room and they could hear it. And then for this last tree fort, like I said, Brad Wagner, who sponsored this pace session with us, he's watched some of the most well-known musicians in the world, and he said, these guys gave me more goosebumps than I've ever experienced. And I think that's a really special testament to creators that are in their early stages. So. But in this, now this time is just like really flying by. So again, I keep referencing these great conversations that we had last night, but we talked about, Dom, you specifically brought up this idea about the theory of a closed circuit. And I want to talk about that because I think that it is really important, and I think it's something that everybody in this room can, it's a good lesson for everybody in this room. But I'd love for you to describe it and then talk about why you think it's important and how it has fueled you.
Well, if you think about the way the brain works with electromagnetism, anywhere that you're focusing your conscious, it's creating a spotlight. And that spotlight is connecting to energy. And so there's, you can have a one-way circuit or a two-way circuit. So like right now, me and you guys, we're connected. You guys are spotlighted to me, I'm spotlighted to you, right? And so we're exchanging energy. You guys are listening to what I'm saying, you're taking it in, you're giving me back, laughter, applause, all the energy that you're feeling. And that's like what's called a reciprocal exchange of energy in a closed circuit, because we're feeding each other and we're both benefiting from it in a good way that is, stable. But there's lots of things in life that are one-way circuits. Like take television, for example. You're giving your attention and you're asking your organs to sacrifice energy and power so that you can consume the content that's not really giving anything back. So if you can be aware of that, you can realize what am I actually spotlighting with my conscious? Is this something that's reciprocal, or is this me just giving to a void and then feeling depleted and then needing to refill that up, but still using the same one way and not getting anything back? So that's kind of the theory of what a closed circuit is.
And a great plug, though, is they were talking about, Nathan said in our talk a little bit ago, if you went to that fireside chat, that he keeps referencing Glow, and as I'm going to do that right now as well, but they were talking about it, and they were like, oh yeah, we could, she was giving us so much energy. It was just a great example of how somebody in the audience can really fuel you, and when you engage with us on stage, it's a closed circuit. Yeah. Makes sense, right? Rocco, I promised that you would freestyle a little bit, and I'm going to put you on the spot here slightly. You don't have to freestyle, but you do have to give me a lyric. They did perform a song yesterday called Closed Circuit, so maybe elaborate that and use some of the lyrics to illustrate this theory.
The lyrics are a lot more abstract, but it was the overall feeling of the song itself. So basically, like when I'm in the studio by myself, just like completely in my own element, enjoying what I'm doing, I have so much life, and I'm sure everyone here doing something that makes you happy knows that feeling of just like, you do it and then you like listen back or observe it or whatever, and it just fills you with that fire. And it just like kept cycling over. It was around the same time Dom and I were having these conversations about closing circuits in your life. And so the song isn't necessarily speaking on that, but it's the feeling that it grabs. So like, if I was gonna say something, it'd be like, looking for wits, I swear I'm looking to unwind. Sick of the shade, I'm trying to find my sunshine. I'm trying to get paid instead of dealing with scraps. Now the people in the back who be feeling it rap, who be feeling it like,
I don't want your money, baby.
yeah, well money is whack.
Well, I know what you want, and baby,
You wanna be had.
Yes. I love that. All right, I want to transition a little bit because we don't have that much more time, and I have like 75 other questions, so we're just going to stick to, I think, some of the more important ones. And earlier in Nicholas's talk, one of the things that he said that really stood out to me and I think is incredibly important is that you need to meet as many people not like you as possible. And I think one of the things that I'm drawn to with your collective is that because of the diversity in your group, it's so beautiful, and it highlights that we as humans really benefit when we are in community with people that are different from us. And I would love, maybe Rocco and Mungo, Marco, really anybody can add into this, is how do you describe the magic that diversity has fostered in your art?
I'd actually like to start with one thing. We're all very, very different people. And the part of this that I think is really important is when you're working with a team of people that are that different, conflict is normal. And it's not about the conflict itself, but about what it takes to overcome that, what it takes to grow and to be better, stronger, more communicative people. And just as the start of that question and how it makes me feel is that we refuse to let any of our disagreements or any of the things that naturally conflict with one another get in the way of what we're trying to do. And we're just constantly trying to build better versions of ourselves to accomplish our dreams and our goals. And so that's my big takeaway from that, and I focus on that quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think an underlying thing is, as people were more and I believe, as people were more similar than we are different. And when you find that underlying layer of similarity and all of that, there's a lot more connections that you'll make despite all of these differences, right? So I think that's one thing we constantly, and keeping in mind a constant goal that we all have as a group, which is to make this beautiful music. Like once you have that goal in the back of your head, like there's nothing that will waver you so much so that you can't be able to do all these things that you want to do.
Love that. Another thing that I want to touch on, we've got, again, very specific, 1 minute and 40 seconds left, so let's be concise here. This is a hard question to answer, I think, really simply. And I continue to pull from Nicholas's conversation earlier today, but he has this, and I don't know if he actually coined this or not. In my mind he did, but he talked about artivism. And Mungo, yesterday you performed a song that you guys have written together. This is out on all the streaming services, so you can find it. It's titled Hold Me. And I'd love for you to give a brief description about what this is about and maybe even share some of the lyrics. And I think that the reason I want to highlight this is music as a form of art is really special because it teaches people, quite honestly, like me, that need to be taught things, but it gives me an opportunity to listen without interfering, and this idea that you need to seek to understand versus seeking to be heard sometimes. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that song, why it's important to you guys as a collective, and maybe share a lyric or two.
Yeah, elevating consciousness is a big part of what we do as a collective together. We try and do it together, we try and do it separately, and then share that knowledge together. And I think as the human race, there's a lot of things that we are trying to combat by these elevations of consciousness. And so Hold Me is a call to action in a sort of way about these issues that are problematic in our societies. You know, it's about liberation, it's about oppression, and how there's multiple oppressed groups all over the world that have very similar situations, because the world is a very global village nowadays. So Hold Me touches, I think, on all of these issues, and when we were writing it, we had all of these different issues in the back of our heads. Like, one is Black, you know, a lot of issues, but one of them is me being a Black body and being in America. I've had to witness and sit through some things that, you know, aren't the most pleasant, and that happens. You know, it's different layers of oppressive system. Women have their own different, you know. So I think Hold Me just touches upon that, and it's a call to action for us collectively to elevate our consciousness and do better for our generation and the generation that comes after us. And some of the lyrics are,
Mighty men have fallen.
So, it's mighty men have fallen from the eyes of grace by the hands of evils that divide us by race. And it's just speaking to that fact that I spoke about earlier as well. We're more similar than we are different, and if we sit in that and we use that to our advantage, we will be able to combat some of these things.
Grow stronger.
Yes. I love that. All right, well, we are at time. We have a fantastic final keynote for everybody, but I have one last question for you. And you can answer this however you'd like, but what does success, based off where you are today in your careers as a collective, as a group, what does success look like to you? You know, and sometimes Glow, again, and I were talking about this space where sometimes you're living in the middle of where you're not quite where you think that you need to be or you can be, but you're living in that space right before that. And I'd love to hear you touch a little bit on that, and then I want you to share with everybody where they can find you, and then maybe talk a little bit about projects you have coming up, so that way you can always follow them, because they're great.
Success to me is finding a way to take creativity and create a sustainable life being creative. There's not a number on it. It's more of like a lifestyle and a way of living. I just want to be able to be creative and make music and do it with my family and my community, and then, you know, have everything else taken care of. So live in the place I want to live, be able to support a family, be able to support our dreams and the things that we want. And so, yeah, in the end, it's just a sustainable life, being creative. For me, that's success.
I love that. In this world, one of the things that you've seen a lot of people talk on stage is, like, I think Shantae said this, like a 75-figure launch, you know, things like that. Well, that's not always the ultimate dream, right? And I think that you just wrapped that up perfectly, is that sometimes what success looks like to everybody is completely different, and what success looks like to you is being able to pursue your creative endeavors and support yourself, and that doesn't have to mean, you know, being a headliner at Coachella, even though that would be great. You know, it doesn't have to mean that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel successful for what we're doing now. Like, I feel blessed to be doing it. And yeah, I mean, I'm so charged by everything. I wake up happy every day, and we've put in a lot of work, and we're following our dreams. So
I love that. We had a quote on one of our creator sessions. Brittany Spencer is a Black country artist, and she said, the journey is the dream. And that was one of my favorite quotes that came out of our series, is because it's not always measuring the end goal. It's sometimes just measuring these little things along the journey that equate to success. So tell everybody where we can find you, and
yeah, you can find us, the Santucci Brothers, the .santucci.brothers Instagram. You can find Mungo Wana. We also have a collective. It's called Mizu. So Mizu the Collective. It's our Instagram there. We're out on all major platforms.
You also find us tonight at the Reef.
Yeah. So
After party.
Yeah, it'll be an after party, and it'll be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be erotic.
if you saw their dancers yesterday, that's just a tiny taste.
They were holding back too.
Yeah. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.